Right. Pleasant good evening and welcome to the NEBOSH National General Certificate. Or should we say the main course then coming out of NEBOSH in terms of their qualification, their accreditation, their acceptance, right? This is the main one and not the spin-off. This is not the ILO version that is not accredited in the UK. This is the full version of the course, right? And we have seen many job searches in Guyana asking for the NEBOSH General Certificate, right? The course that comes from NEBOSH itself, right? As opposed to like a spin-off qualification, right? So we would want to cover now. We would have stopped at law last week, and but there's a bit more to law, right? And so let me just read a bit here. I'll have to read this out for you. Just about here, it gets into the next thing you have to learn that is very important, right? So let's read out the first couple of slides. And I would still ask if you all have any writing material because there's some stuff to write that would be beneficial for you all anyway, right? And so the next thing here, and if you want a synopsis, I mean, just kind of give you a synopsis, right? So, or should I read first? I think I'll read a couple of slides first, right? Because if I give the synopsis, you might as well use that to understand the whole class. Let me read a couple of slides first and then I'll kind of break it down and give you that synopsis. So the heading here is the force of law, punishment, and compensation. And the idea here is that you have different sources of laws in the world. We have what is called statute law, and we have common law. Now, this is throughout every country, right? This is throughout every country, every place that have law. You have two types of law, right? Statute comes from the word state, right? So statute law is laws made by the government, right? It's a written law of the land. I mean, it's an open book exam. This is not really a question. When we get to the question, I'll tell you, right? Statute law could be an act like the Road Traffic Act, the OSH Act. Statutes can also be regulations, right? An act is known as a statute or a statutory instrument. Regulations are known as statutory instruments. Let me just check. I left your rule on the other table. I'm seeing somebody coming in. I wonder if that's one of my students or when I say one of mine, one of my students, I'm Trinidad. It's probably one of yours anyway. Let me just admit the person. Yeah. All right. So a regulation is known as a statutory instrument. The prosecution must prove their case beyond all reasonable doubt. Let me read this up because none of this is exam, right? It's just information. It's just information about statute law, right? If you commit a crime, you are a criminal if you break the law of the land, right? So you are a criminal if you commit a crime against the state, meaning you break the law of the land. The main sanctions for breaking statute law includes imprisonments and fines. Charges may be laid indictably or on summary. I'll explain that in a bit, but none of this is exam. The burden of proof is on the employer. Statute law does not involve compensation for the injured party. Let me just go to some. Please remember, I said not every line could be an exam question because we're ending with a very long exam, right? So just on the heels of this, there are two types of laws. We just spoke about statute law, the law of the land. And possibly the only thing you need to know here is that therefore, the OSH Act 1997 in Guyana is the law of the land, right? And so it's the law of Guyana then, right? If an employer would have broken the act, they are seen as a criminal. The point about indictable and summary, let me just explain that. An indictable offense, try to sort out a security camera, right? An indictable offense is an offense that you have to get bail for. An indictable offense is that it's like a serious offense that, right? An indictable offense is a serious offense. An indictable offense is one that it's a serious crime. And I know, like I said, you all have serious crimes in Guyana, but it's like murders, right? Like a serious crime if somebody is charged with murder, they say the charge would have been laid indictably, meaning there is the intent for imprisonment. Indictable offenses mean that you could go to jail then, right? Like a summary offense is a non-jailable offense. A summary offense then is like a speeding ticket or an environmental, sort of fine, right? A summary offenses are not so serious offense, right? Like if you were speeding and you were caught, or well, of course we know the guy in our police service is a bit different. No offense, right? To anybody that is in the police service, but of course you have good ones and you have bad ones anyway. But like if you were a driver then and you did not have all of your documents in place and you got a ticket, then that's a summary offense. You really cannot go, it really isn't attached to jail time. What is attached with that ticket is a fine, right? It's a less serious offense as opposed to like vehicular manslaughter, in which case you may be charged indictably because there is the intent, for jail anyway, right? So the other type of law is common law. And today's class is not really on common law, but as it is on the slide, just to appreciate that there are two types of laws. There is trying to sort out an electrical code in the ground, all right? There is so there is a law of the land, and then there is common law, right? So common law is really tomorrow class, right? So common law, if you go down a bit, you'll see it here. Common law is laws that are made by a judge, right? So I'm sure you all have seen Judge Judy. And of course, there are many television type, reality shows that feature judges in them and on them. And Judge Judy then, or like a judge in a court, when that judge makes a judgment and rules then, right? The words of the judge is seen to be law. The words of the judge is seen to be law. So when the judge gives a ruling and says, okay, well, the worker should be compensated, the words of the judge is law. So therefore, there are two types of laws in the world. We have the laws that are created by the government, which is called statute law. And then we have the laws that are created by the words of judges, and that is called common law. Tell me if you're okay with that so far. Let me know, let me know. I'm just checking my security cameras. I saw some movements on the outside here. So
Yeah, I'm good with that.
okay, good, good. Okay, let me just show you something. I'm just gonna get something for you all on this side here. I'm back. I'm right here. Right. So how was the weekend in Guyana? Today is Monday. How was the weekend in Guyana? How was, you know, anybody, how was the weekend in Guyana? I'm asking a question because I want to show you something as well. Anybody, how was the weekend in Guyana? Anybody, you had a good weekend in Guyana? A safe weekend? Yeah?
Yeah, to say
Shondell,
it,
Vanessa?
short.
Yeah? Short,
Yes,
okay.
sir. It
Right,
was
okay.
safe. Had a bit of
Okay.
rain, but it was all right.
Yeah, that's true. I have students in all my classes from Guyana. Yesterday I had process safety. I had Nikisha, if anybody knows her. She was in the last sort of oil and gas graduation we had about a month ago. In fact, this month, this is still July. She was telling me it was raining and she didn't want to come to class. Anyway, let me show you the front page of today's papers in Trinidad if you haven't seen it yet. If you can see that figure there. So when we say certain things, like when I come Guyana sometimes, or when I go Grenada, I tell them how it is here, and it is really not nice in Trinidad at all. Trinidad is nice, and the island itself is nice, but I don't know if you also saw any of the videos. It looks like television. These people will pull up. They shot a business woman Saturday. I was teaching class not too far from me. I live in San Fernando, which is one of the cities. Trinidad has like two cities like Georgetown and Berbice now, right? And it is like a movie center, right? It's like how you have the Amazonia Mall. We have a big mall in South called South Park, and they shot a businesswoman there and killed her. But 14 persons, right? And if you check the war in Ukraine, if you check how much people was killed over the weekend in Ukraine, it's about the same number of people, which is scary, right? Because Ukraine and Russia is in a war, but not too sure what the war is all about in Trinidad here, right? So yes, as I said, I heard something on the security cam. So that's why, the building is somewhat safe, but Trinidad is such a strange place, right? You really can't take anything but something did trigger the security camera because it is showing now somewhere where it doesn't show that part of the building, right? That I'm looking at. It's showing like a corridor that something had to trigger it for it to move there anyway. Anyway, we'll continue the classes. I tend to be safe here. I've been here for 10 years, but I just showing you what the reality is for folks who are in Trinidad. And that's why I always prefer to go Grenada, Guyana, UK, right? In one of my training sessions in Grenada, and I'm sure the same for Guyana as well. But one of my training sessions in Grenada, at the end of it, somebody told me, they said, you must have felt very safe for the week. And I said, yes, we feel much safer when we are out of Trinidad than when we are in Trinidad anyway, right? You all see for yourself, right? That's the reality that we live with. You may wonder why we're talking about it because crime mightn't be what you talk about, but everybody in Trinidad, that's what is like the number one kind of topic everybody talks about on the island anyway, right? All right, we're moving on. So, and the strange thing is I actually bought one of your papers. I have it here too, but I won't get it back to go for it, right? All right. So folks, if you want now I will try to explain. Oh, if you want, I can read out this one last slide and then your writing paper will come in handy, right? So statute laws are regarded as primary legislation. An act normally starts off as a consultation document, normally referred to as green paper. After the consultation phase, a bill is produced. The bill is normally read 3 times. Though again, this is not an exam question, it's just information. It's 3 separate times. It's not 3 times in a row, and it may be 40 days between each reading. So a bill normally gets a long time. And then if the bill is challenge and stuff, a bill normally takes a longer time for it to become a law. I'm not too sure what you all have in Guyana. Like perhaps there may be something with like something that is trending and it was a trending other than the obvious thing, but anything that's trending on the like like in Guyana, it's with respect to the law, right? Like is there a law that is upsetting the citizens, right? And so if there's something like that, like the more upset the citizens are, the longer it takes to go through the parliamentary stages then, right? However, if it does go through and the members of the government and the members of the opposition vote in it and they get a majority voting, then it is sent to the president or your president. Once he signs that bill, the bill now becomes a law anyway, right? So as I said, not everything is exam, and that is not really an exam question anyway, right? It is just information. So now, having gotten that out of the way, we can kind of go through what tends to come for exam, right? And it's right on the slide here, but I may need to write it for you. And we need to emphasize it because it is exam. Before I do that though, can I ask, and again, I'm asking in really a way because I don't know. And I'm not asking to suggest, anything, right? I'm just asking, right? So the obvious question here is, have you all gotten your books as yet? I mean, like, have you all gotten the books as yet? I know some people may have them. No?
They arrived today.
Right, because mine arrived
They
today.
arrived
That's
today.
why,
So just a second.
yeah, mine arrived today. I don't know if I can turn the camera and show. I have a whole stack of books like this high. But do you know, by the end of this week, those books are all gone. All of those books have been bagged and tagged. That's the popularity of Nibosh anyway, right? But I know Guyana, I know y'all, the new Guyana school normally sees about the purchasing, but I know they had ordered around the same time as me from Nibosh. So that's why I asked if you all got yours. If you get some time, pass and pick them up. If you haven't had time as yet, the good news is the same information is on the slide, right? It's like if you open the book, so those of us who have it, right? If anybody have it, I could try to mention a page. I just need to scoot across it to get one, right? And I think it's page 9. Let me just scoot across here and I'll get one, right? And so it's page 9. And the same information is actually on this slide, right? So if by chance you see the same thing here, I mean, just to prove it to, okay, like to you, you'd see source of law, and you see the same thing. You'll see act, and we're gonna come down the line here today. You're gonna see regulations. If you go down here, you'll see I probably passed regulations, didn't I? Regulations, approved code of practices and guidances. And that's today lesson. If you look at the heading here, that's what you heading here. You'll see act, you'll see regulations, you'll see approved code of practices, and you'll see guidances, right? So it's the same information, but for those who got it, I like to make the effort there to kind of show the page for you all anyway, so that they could follow through, those who want to follow through with the books. The books come with the price of the course. There are some places that don't give the books, but we kind of make sure that you all get 2 new brand textbooks, not copy books, not copied. 2 new brand textbooks come with the price that you all pay anyway, right? Anyway, let's get into this. So what we're doing here now, we're kind of going back into kind of more like an exam focus as opposed to content. So for last week, you'd have seen the different sections of the act. So if you want, you could write what I'm doing, right? The different sections of the act. And we just said the HSW Act, which is like the law in England. This is the law of the land, right? The HSW Act, this is the law of the land, and this is like the statute law then. This is like how they said, like statute law, right? So this is like the law of the land. This is the HSW Act. This is the law that governs health and safety in this course. And of course, in Guyana, it's the OSH Act 1997. In Trinidad, is the OSH Act 2004. In Grenada, is the OSH Act 2015, right? So the next thing, if you just saw the book that I had, or if you want to could look back at the slide, the next thing after the act is the next word, which is regulation. I'm gonna try to get this slide to line up again. So the next thing is regulations, right? So let's see what regulations are. So the next word I'm gonna write here would be regulations, right? Now, remember what I said. Tonight, there is something for you to do. I'll show you what I'm talking about in a bit. Right? Let me just get to some of the explanation first, right? So regulations, and I just put regs in it, right? So regulations, let's read out this slide. They are made by the Secretary of State. So if you wonder, well, who is the Secretary of State? The Secretary of State is the minister, like the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Labor, right? In the UK, they refer to them as Secretary of State. So instead of saying, no, they do say ministers, right? Like in Guyana, we say minister. Trinidad, we say minister. The whole Caribbean say minister. The Minister of, Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Tourism, the Minister of Education. But in England, they say Secretary of State. In America, too, they say Secretary. Right? If you're there are some movies, if you're unfamiliar with that, there's actually a movie called Secretary of State, right? There's actually a movie called Secretary of State anyway, a good movie. can't remember who and who in it, but it was a really good movie anyway, right? So regulations, then if you interpret this, are made by ministers, right? As a result of this is Health and Safety Commission. Now, the Health and Safety Commission is a government body. It is like OSHA. Today, though, the HSC has been renamed the HSE, and they are located in London. So I wanted to kind of write this down a bit. The HSE, these letters then represent a government entity. And it doesn't just mean health, safety, and the environment then, but what it means, if you want, you could write this down too, right? The HSE stands for Health and Safety Executive. If you read down the slide, it actually have that on the slide, but we're not focusing on them today because today the lesson is Act, Regulation, ACOPs, and Guidance, page 9 of your textbook, right? But if you read down, I could show you, but which I don't want to because I write it on this slide. But if you read down this slide, you'd see they actually have a heading called the HSE, the Health and Safety Executive. Let me see if we can find it for you. It's right around here somewhere. So we probably could reach it tomorrow, right? The HSE, the Health and Safety Executive. And this is the OSHA in England. In England, they do not say OSHA. They say HSE. Right? They don't say OSHA in England. They say HSE, right? So I wanted to take a note of that. Please take a note of that. Like if you want to refer to OSHA in this course, then you have to say the HSE, right? Because they don't say OSHA in England, right? They say the HSE. A lot of people forget that, and that's something that we have to correct you all on coming closer to exam anyway, right? But please try to remember it, and they are located in, it's a government building, it's in London, and what this slide was saying before, the ministers can make regulations, but they should consult with the HSE because this is the government body for health and safety, right? So the ministers can make regulations, but if there's a government building and a government entity for health and safety, well, it makes sense just to consult with the HSE if you're making a regulation, right? Anyway, I don't think that's exam either. So going back to this slide, right? I'll tell you the part for exam, right? Just read out this slide. So HSE must consult with all interested parties, the ministers, the SOS is the minister, the Secretary of State, can make regulations on his or her own initiative, but they must consult with the HSE first. Why? Because that's a government entity for health and safety, right? Regulations must be laid before Parliament. And of course, the regulations are made under the HSW Act. The regulations are a type of law, right? So here's where we get into the nitty-gritty of it now, right? After all of the reading, right? So here's what, right? Here's what you need to know to do what what you have to do for your exam, right? So what you have to know is this, is that they could not put everything, like everything they wanted to say in the HSW Act, right? Even if you looked at the work from last week, Section 2 of the Act, right? To provide safe place of work, safe access, egress, information, training, instruction, supervision. They couldn't say everything in the Act, right? So what they did in the UK, they have what I call like daughter laws there, or sub-laws. And those sub-laws are what we call regulations. Therefore, they say regulations must be laid before Parliament and are made under the HSW Act, right? So everything couldn't fit in one law, right? One of the reasons is that if they would have fit everything in one law, the law would have been too bulky. Nobody would have wanted to read it. So they created like a bunch of other laws, which we call daughter regulations or daughter laws. And really, those daughter laws are what we call regulations. On this slide here, I have 6 of them. But this is just meant as an example to tell you that they have daughter laws there. And the daughter or the sub laws is like an extension of the act, but it carries the word regulation with it, right? So before we read this, I need to tell you something else. And that's why we need to do a lot of writing. I hope you're writing. You don't want to wait for me to tell you. If you heard the term daughter laws, you could have written that down to help you. Sub laws, right? This is a lecture, so you can take some stuff down to help remember what you have to remember, right? But I will write the main things here for you. So the other concept here is that in developed countries, there's like a law for everything. And that is the state of England then, right? There's a law for everything in England. So what do I mean by everything? I'll put it here for you. Every hazard that you could think about has a regulation. Every hazard that you could think about has a regulation. And yes, in Guyana, even though, the regulations are not law in Guyana, you all still follow them. Everybody follows them. That's just how it is in the world. Like, for example, Guyana doesn't have a separate law for inspecting the elevator or lifting equipment. But all lifting equipment is inspected once every 6 months. And that's because there's a regulation for lifting equipment, right? So see if you could wrap your head around this concept. The concept is that if I could think about a hazard, there is a law for that hazard. If you want, you could write that statement down. But it's kind of on the slide, right? If you could think about a hazard, there's a regulation for that hazard. There's a law for that hazard then, right? So do you know that we have a law for COVID-19 as well? Do you know there's a law for COVID-19 in England? The rest of the world doesn't have it, but we follow it because that's a law that talks about, well, it's not talks about, I won't say talked, but it still have in it things about face masks, hand sanitizers, quarantine, keeping your distance. So how did we know all of those things? Somebody must have thought about it, and somebody must have a standard then, right? So then those things became common practice, right? And that is what is happening, in that a lot of the laws govern the hazards that you all face: noise, dust, manual handling, work equipment, right? Radiation, slip, trips, and fall, lighting, ventilation, temperature. Now, those laws are not the laws in Guyana, but because they are laws already existing, people around the world then follow it. How do we know then what is proper manual handling technique? How do we know the proper way to lift something? How do we know the proper lighting in the buildings? 80 lux, 100 lux. That's not law in Guyana. But the fact that there is a law guarding or guiding noise, the world tends to follow these laws then, right? However, for this course, now you're not required to know them by heart, right? This is an open book exam, so thank God for that, right? You're not required to learn the laws by heart. But here the trick, right? Remember I told you at the top of the hour, 6 o'clock, for those who were here, there is something for you to do tonight. And I'm trying to get us to do it just now, but I'm trying to finish up this here, right? So what you have to do tonight, you have to know how to find them. You have to know how to find the regulation for noise. You have to know how to find the regulation for manual handling. Of course, it's on the slide there, right? But you have to know how to find, if you could think of a hazard like crushing, right? You have to know how to find the hazard, sorry, find the law for that hazard. If you wanted to know why, let me tell you why one time, but you had to write it down, right? So the why is that this course has a project. Now, those who did the T-Bosch course, you have a good idea of what I'm talking about, right? So you have the T-Bosch course, you have a good idea, right? There is a local version of NEBOSH in Guyana called T-Bosch. Not the same thing, of course, right? But the tutor for that is a past student of mine, Robert. And Robert, but I have been there since November last year, and he has sort of seen and he has more or less tweaked his project or his course to fit and resemble the NEBOSH course. So if you have done the T-Bosch program, then you have an idea of what the project looks like. Now, when I say idea, an idea is because it looks similar, but it's not the same thing. And the other thing is that we not marking it, right? I am not marking it. Robert is not marking it. It's going to England. We covered that on orientation day. But for the sake of the project then, right? For the project, there are 3 hazards you have to get. Well, you have to get 10. But you have to, haven't gotten the 10, you kind of have to choose the most important 3. Right? So the project is a hazard table and it's pretty long, right? To fill out, right? It's not just 10 hazards, it's have a whole set of rules to fill out again, right? And when you have the 10, you have to choose out the most important 3. Now, for those most important 3, you have to give the regulation for them. So that's why today's work, even though it's just on page 9, today's work is very important, right? Because the skill you're going to learn tonight or just now is going to be important for your project. You cannot pass the project without putting the laws. There's a space for it then, right? Under each hazard, just as you choose the hazard, the next thing is to put a specific regulation. So you have to know how to find them, right? What I'll try to do though, let me just explain the other 2 because the way to find them is the same way, right? So we don't need to, do it one by one. We can just do the 3 explanation one time, and then I can show you how to find them. If you want to know what do I mean by the other 2, remember those in the textbook I showed you on page 9, there are 4 things there. Let me just go back and show you here too. I have it on the slide too, right? So we have the act. That's number 1, the main law, the statute law made by the government and stuff, right? Then we have sub-laws or daughter laws, which are called regulations. And what we just said, well, because England is a developed country, America too, but remember we are under the British, or we were under the British, Guyana, Trinidad, the Caribbean follows that British system of education, right? So what we just said is that if you could think of a hazard, there's a law for that, right? And I made some mention of some weird ones like COVID-19. There's a law for that in England, right? And the other thing is that you have to know how to find them, which we'll see in a bit. But there were 2 others. And if you look at the slide, you'll see them right here. There's something called an ACOP. Then let me just fit it in one time. I'll try to fit it here on the slide. Well, approved code of practices, the acronym for this is an ACOP, ACOPS. Let's write down all of them one time. And the last one is something called a guidance. But I have to explain them, right? And then we have to try to find them, find some of them. So actually tonight class, you're going to get an assignment tonight. You may actually get one tomorrow too. No, not every class is like that. I told you all that next week and thing. I can't, some things we teach is just more content than exam then, right? That's just how the syllabus is designed, right? So this is the 4 of them. If you have the book, you'll see them on page 9. And if not, they're right on the slide here. You just saw act, you saw regulation, you're looking at ACOPs now. And if I move this slide, you'll see guidance, right? So there are 4 of them. So let's go back to the main idea. Let's keep looking here. So the main thing is that there's a law for health and safety around the world. In Guyana is the HSW Act. In England is the HSW Act. The other thing we said is that there are many regulations because they couldn't fit everything in one law. And as much as we could think of a hazard, there's a law for that. So if that's the case, then what is an ACOP? What is an ACOP? And what is a guidance? Let's look at the first one first. Well, it's kind of on the slide. If you watch this slide, you'll see it, right? But I'll tell you still. So let me tell you first, and then we read the slide. So what an ACOP is, listen to it carefully. What an ACOP is. An ACOP is still like a simplified version of the act and regulation. An ACOP is like a booklet. If you want, you can take that down. Now, I have some around because I'm happy in the office. So I'm looking around to see if I can find one. I'll show you one of them. Right? I have lots in a cupboard up there, but it's the get up there, right? But I have some in a coffee table here. I'll pull one and I'll show you just now, right? So what an ACOP is, try to listen to it. An ACOP is like a booklet. So it's like a booklet on the regulation. So if you wonder why did they do that? You see, our regulation is still the law. And what they realize is that nobody really have time to download a law for noise or for manual handling. But if you can get a simplified version of the law, right, like a little booklet, well, maybe the employers will be more happy with that. And that's what the ACOP is, right? So I don't know if you want to take this down. I have a couple of things to write here for you, right? An ACOP is like a booklet. And I hope you're all following the thought pattern. Write on the word booklet for me. While you're writing it down, I'll try to grab one. Now, the one I'm seeing is not the best one, but it is one. So I'll grab the one that I have in my coffee table here at the office, right? I have tons of books. You all don't want to see this office, right? I'll grab one here for you and I'll show you what I'm talking about, right? So I've grabbed up another book too, but just to show you something, right? So this is like an ACOP. You see how nice and small and colorful it is? So the HSE, if you read this, the HSE, the government body, that government place that we saw in London, they publish these books on them. Nice small books. Watch this one. Watch how nice this is. 6 steps, right, to a safe lift. You see, an employer is more willing to read this than to read the whole law for manual handling. Same thing for noise. These things are colorful, they have charts, and tonight you have to see how to find them. The other thing is that these things are free. Well, not this one. I bought this one. This book is about 15 years old. It looks good, eh? I've had this now since probably before around 2010, 2011. Right? Somebody actually tried to buy it from me the other day. Some student came in and saw it and they wanted to buy it. And I said, you have no idea what you're holding in your hand there. This is the other book I picked up. But this is not an ACOP. I was just showing you that I didn't have a lot of books. We have huge books at the institute here. 3 cupboards here packed with literature like these, right? Let me put this one back. Yeah, but hopefully you got an idea what an ACOP is. An ACOP is a booklet produced by the HSE. Again, if you're wondering why, the why is that, yes, okay, we said every hazard have a law, but not everybody want to read a whole law, right? So they realize that, and if you read here, they say, oh, the ACOPs, watch it, it could supplement the act and regulation. It tells you exactly what the law wants. You don't have to read anything about section 22A and 22AB. You could just get it in a nice little brochure or booklet, right? Now, there's something here you need to know. So keep writing. So because, if you follow, right? Because every hazard have a what? Every hazard have a, try to follow. Every hazard have a regulation.
Regulations.
Very good. Then what that means? That means every hazard have a booklet. I'll say that again. Watch it. If every hazard have a law, right? If every hazard you could think about in your life, stress. Is there a law for stress? Yes. right? Is there a law for COVID-19? I told you all yes, right? If you can think of a hazard, there's a law for it. But if there's a law for every hazard in the world, then what that means is that every hazard have a booklet, because the ACOP does supplement the regulation, and ACOP is a simple way to understand the law. So that every hazard have a booklet, and the answer to that is yes. So to differentiate the booklet to them, what they did, remember to be like booklet 1, 2, 3, 10,000, whatever have you, right? So what they did, they created like a serial number. ACOPs are represented by the letter L, capital L. And there'll be a number here. So you'll have to put the number. I don't know if you understand where this is going. Remember we said for the project, you'll have to get the regulation. You're probably going to have to get the ACOP. There's a space to put the ACOP, right? And what it means is that you have to research it and be able to get the okay, like the code, the L code, and then there's a number there like L108. L108 is actually a booklet. That's actually the name of a booklet, L108, right? Okay, let's go to the other one based on the time. The other one is guidance. I'll try to get this slide to move a bit. So guidance is, and if you go down, you'll actually see I have a picture of a book here, right? This one is HSG 194. That's something for thermal comfort in the workplace. There's a booklet on that. Anyway, let's go to guidance. So what is a guidance? If you want, I could tell you again. But let me tell you first, I guess, and when we can read, right? So what is a guidance? A guidance is yet another book, right? It's another type of book. But it is another brochure. It's another book then meant to do the same thing, which is to explain what the law was trying to say, right? So the HSE, let's go down a bit. The HSE, the people who live and work inside there, they didn't create one book. They created books, right? And one of the book is called an ACOP. Another book is called a guidance, right? And what the guidances do, they do the same thing. The guidances try to explain what the law is trying to say. Let's have a read of the slide and you'll see. So the guidances contain practical advice from the HSE, usually in the form of what? In the form of follow, in the form of books, right? Now, because it's a different series or it's a different series of books. They have a different way to remember these. The letters here is HSG. So there's a series, there's the L series, and then there's the HSG series. And then there's a number here as well. There's going to be a number there. Why a number? Because remember, there are many books. So there must be a way to tell book 1 apart from book 309 apart, right? So it's going to be L108 for the ACOP series. And if there's a guidance and noise, it's going to be HSG, and there's going to be a number there, right? It may be number 1, which I really doubt is number 1. It may be HSG 245. It may be HSG 369, right? But they have a different series then, right? And these are meant, if you read it for yourself, please read it for yourself here, you'll see, right? It contains best practice at the time of publication. It contains practical advice as to how to fulfill the law, like what to do for whatever your hazard is, right? Now, before we move on, one last thing here. What I've realized is that sometimes they replace the letters HSG with another code, which is INDG, right? So sometimes if you look for them, you don't get them under the code HSG, but you get them under the code IN. This is my mistake here. This is supposed to be IND, as in dinosaur, INDG, right? So any one of these codes can be used interchangeably, and you can find your guidances for noise, or you can find your guidances for your ACOPs. Well, not the ACOPs, you can find not the guidance really, but the L books for the ACOPs, right? The regulations on top there, the HSW Act to the top of that as well, right? So the only thing that remains now is for us to find them, right? So the big synopsis here is that every hazard have a regulation, and every regulation have like a way to remember it, or a user-friendly format, so that you don't have to read the whole law. You can just read like a booklet on the hazard. The booklets can be in two forms. You can get an ACOP booklet, you can get a guidance booklet, and for exam, it doesn't really matter. Once you get one, is good enough. I don't know if you want to write that down, right? For the project, it doesn't matter if your booklet is in the form of an ACOP or a guidance. Once you get one, you're good to go, right? Most people find, in fact, that's not true. I mean, these booklets are just very common, right? I'll show you how to find them now. They're very common, and there's really no mass emphasis in any one of them, right? So let's go back to the top. Now, what I'll need you to do, I will need to ask if you all have some sort of Wi-Fi access, and if you're not taking it on your phone, if you're not taking the class on your phones then, right? So if you have your phone, I'm going to use mine here. If you have your phones, we're going to try it on the phone. If you don't, if you're using your phone for the class, I don't know how you'll maneuver the both of them. But I guess if you want to watch over the video, we'll just take some steps on what we are doing. So I guess maybe tomorrow sometime before, but tomorrow we're not on this anymore. Tomorrow we're back on common law, right? But if you want, we can spend some time on this again tomorrow. But it's easy to find once you find them anyway, right? So what you want to do, you want to just get your phone back to like your homepage, back to Google, right? And we want to go to the HSE website. Yes, so these persons here, we mentioned them, the health and safety executive. Now again, if you don't, well, I have mentioned them today, but if you don't have an idea, you're still not thinking who they are, I would probably say like they are the biggest health and safety government body in the world, right? And so they are like the OSHA then, right? Of course, OSHA came out of them because remember, America was under British rule as well. So what you want to do, you want to put in your Google, you want to put in there the HSE website, Health, Safety and Executive, HSE website. So that's what I'm typing in. I'm typing in HSE website. So that's what I typed in. I'm going to run a search. And what you should get is this, the Health, Safety and Executive website, HSE, right? Now, this is like a secret weapon to all safety people. Again, we have said why already, because, they have a lot of free materials here. They're going to ask you to accept, like these traceable units anyway, so I'm going to accept that. And what you'll come across is like an intranet, the Health, Safety and Executive website that has a search bar, right? So it's like an intranet for health and safety. And there's a search bar there, right? So this is the key, and this is also very helpful for exam if you're researching a question or something, right? Let's say they wanted, but most of your questions, the answers are in the case study. Thank God for that. But I'm just saying, suppose they ask something on contractor management, you could come to the HSE website. It's free. Long after the course is finished, you could keep the knowledge of what today's class is all about. And you can probably put on the HSE search bar 10 contractor rules and see what comes up. It's a very good site. It's the most popular site for health and safety in the world where searches are concerned, right? So please don't forget it. Once you stay in the field of health and safety, please remember that this site remains accessible to you, right? So what we want to do, I want to clean this slide because we have to start by finding a regulation, right? So I'm going to clean this slide. And what I want you to do for me, hopefully you understand what I said here, because I'm not going to write over all of it again. Every hazard have a regulation. Every regulation have an ACOP, and every regulation has a guidance. In short, every regulation have booklets to supplement to that, right? So what I want you to do for me, I want you to call a hazard for me. Could you all give me a hazard? Because it begins with that. Remember, every regulation have a hazard. So we have to start from what is the hazard. And for your project too, remember you have to get 10 hazards, and then you are going to choose 3 of them to kind of continue your project on. But for now, just to find these things in terms of what they are all about, could somebody give me a couple of hazards and I'll tell you which one I'll choose? And we have to go and find the regulation for that hazard. We have to find the ACOP for that hazard, yes. And we have to find the guidance for that hazard. If somebody shout some hazards for me, let me see which one I'll take. Which one?
Stress. You mentioned stress. I'm curious about that one.
Stress mightn't be our to the time. Stress is kind of, but we could try it or we could try it. Yeah, stress was another one. They have the HSG as well, right? HSG and INDG, right? Again, I don't have I don't have the time ready tonight, but for those who did the T-Bosch program, you know what I'm talking about. Your NEBOSH project, your NEBOSH project then is like a sheet. It's like a sheet to fill out. So like there's a space on that sheet I was telling you, like when you choose your hazard, you have to go and plug in the regulation, right? You have to plug in one ACOP or one guidance, right? So that's how this class is important. Anybody is gonna shout a hazard for me? I am not stress may be hard to find, but I'll take it still. Let me see. I mean it's interesting to me. But what say the rest of you? Like what is another hazard? I still go with stress and I just want to hear what the rest of you saying.
Can you hear me? Fire.
Fire.
Fire is very common. We'll find fire for sure. And believe it or not, for your project, for your finance project, you could choose the same fire, you know, fire is a common hazard, right? Let me try stress because I think it's interesting. I am going to put myself on the block here, right? Right, to see what these laws are anyway, right? So let's go with stress. If we don't find it, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just may mean we have to keep on checking the site. You see what I'm talking about just now, right? So I'm going to put stress here. Stress, part of everyday life, isn't it, right? Stress a part of everyday life. It always was in us. Stress is always a part of everyday life. Today, the stress is the traffic in Georgetown, which is very bad, right? The stress may be your job, which is also probably sort of bad. But long time it was still stress. It was always stress. It was stress that workers worked and wasn't getting sufficient pay. You know, it was inhumane conditions, right? You know, you ever like you ever stop and think about, you ever stop and think about, because I do it sometimes and I do it regularly because I am under stress as everybody is. But I heard somebody say, right? I don't know if I just pass this thought, and I heard somebody say, you have an obligation to your ancestors. I don't know if you ever thought about it, because they suffered a lot, right? They suffered slavery and indentureship. They suffered inhumane condition and they made it. And you are here now. You are here. Yes, your life is stressful, but we still have the privilege of AC, television, you know, a good building to live in, right? Some of your like your forefathers then didn't have that, and we didn't have that. So you have an obligation to your ancestors. So life is stressful, yes. Modern day life is stressful, but it always was, right? So don't think that you are the only one in your generation line or the only one in your family going through stress. We all go through stress, right? And it was actually stressful or more stressful long ago than it is now, right? So we have an obligation to keep going then, to keep the race going, right? Keep the race going for the next generation. Anyway, back to this, right? So we are on the HSC website. So what I wanted to put in the search bar here, I'm going to click the search bar, which is like that magnifying glass. And what I wanted to put in there, you want to put in regulation for stress, because we're trying to find the regulation for stress. So I'm typing it in just like that, regulation for stress. So in short, that's how easy it is to find them. If you want to find, I put relation, let me just put the proper thing. That's when you write and you talk at the same time, right? So regulation for stress, and you press enter and you see what comes up. That's what I did, regulation for stress. So it doesn't matter what the hazards are. And even the same thing work for the ACOP and the guidance. If you want to find the ACOP for stress, you put ACOP for stress. So it's not hard to find. But let me see if we find something. Because I have an idea what the regulation is. But this is a live site. I don't know what they'll bring up. Regulation for stress. My thing is still searching. Stress is not that. Right. So I got some stuff, right? But I don't know if these things are regulations. I'm seeing guidances, I'm seeing, okay, I did see it. Because I know the law, right? But I don't know if you know it, and you would know it. You as a student would know it. But I know the law for stress, right? And it's not the first one, right? I think the first one is just like an article or something. Right? So that's why when you said stress, I know stress, right? This is an article, stress, right? And mental health at work, but it's not a law. Now, how do we know it's not a law? It doesn't have the word regulation attached to it. We're looking for the regulation right now, right? It would have been easier to find fire, but like I said, I am kind of bored of the regular stuff, so I would be excited to find something new then, right? So the regulation is here, but you're going to have to go down a bit. Or if you want, I can just tell you what it is, right? So it was here. I'm just gonna scroll on my thing a bit. So the regulation is here. You'll see it. You'll see it as you go down. You'll have to say the word regulation, right? So not to sure if you have this, you got the same search bar as me, but the regulation is this one down there. It's called the Workplace Health, Safety, and Welfare Regulation. You say regulation is the end of it, right? That's how you know you find the regulation, right? So I'll write it out for you because it mightn't be that easy for you anyway, right? The year for it is 1992. Now, I will just use the acronym. There's an acronym for it, which is WH, the Workplace Health Safety, right? WHSR, so Workplace Health Safety and Welfare Regulation. So it's the it's kind of like HSW, right? But WHSWR 1992, right? I'll tell you what it stands for because remember, you all may not have it on your devices yet, right? I'll tell you what it stands for now. It stands for Workplace Health, Safety, and Welfare Regulations 1992. That's one of the regulations for stress, right? So how we know we find it is that you'll have to see the word regulation in the back of it, right? Okay, so if you have that, tell me. Again, this was not the easiest one, but it is there. You have to just scroll along a bit until you find it. And if you didn't find it, you click the next button because, you know, this will bring up, this brought up how much? This brought up, sometimes it tell you how much articles that they have brought up, right? But it didn't tell me how much here.
Sir, can you kindly
Yeah.
go over the abbreviation, please? The meaning for
It's the
the
workplace.
abbreviation.
Yeah, workplace. It's on one of the slide, and I'm gonna try to get for you on this slide. It's the Workplace Health, Safety, and Welfare Regulations. Let me try to get on this slide for you. 1992. It was actually on this slide here.
Yes, sir, got it. Thanks.
Yeah, look at, it's supposed to be here, right? Look at here.
Yeah, I
The third
checked
one,
it.
Workplace Health, Safety, and Welfare Regulation 1992. All right, let's try to find the ACOP now. And so to find the ACOP, you want to get back to the HSC side. And you want to get back to the home page. And you want to click in the search bar again. And what you put in there is ACOP for stress. ACOPS for stress. And you're going to press search again. Again, as this is not a too popular one, ACOPs for stress, but you're supposed to get something because every hazard have a law. It's just that when I say popular, sometimes like as soon as you click search and it comes up as the first one, I know stress would not have been first, but it was on the same page, right? So ACOPs for stress, if you can put in that in yours and hit search and see what comes up. Right now, how we know we find this one? How would you know you find this one? Is that you're supposed to see? Anybody could tell me what you're supposed to find? What like what you're supposed to see? How is the ACOP series represented as? Say it again. It's supposed to have what? We know the regulation because it says regulation, but how do you know when you find an ACOP?
Or when it have the number, the L and the number.
Very good. So scroll on what you found and see if you find an L and a number. I found it already. I don't know if it was the first one. I don't think it was the first one, you know. I wonder. No, it wasn't the first one, but I scroll on. Let me see. 1, 2, 3. And I found the L and the number. Anybody could tell me what it is if you got it? What L number are you seeing? In other words, what L number did you get? What L and what number did you get if you scroll up? L what? L1, L2, L3, L4. And when you get it, you're supposed to click it and open it. L what?
26.
Okay, L26 is correct. Is there another number? I feel like I'm playing Lotto.
I see an L24.
Very good. L24 is also correct. So what does that mean? How could it have two books? It could. It's a book, right? How could it have two books? Anyone is correct. I think you remember me saying that. Like it doesn't matter which one you get. Once you get once you get the correct ACOP, or you get a book, it's correct. In other words, then there could be two books about manual handling. It doesn't really matter. It's just a book, right? So L26 is correct. L24 is correct. The only question I want you all to tell me, which one do you want me to write on this slide? We can write both on this slide, right? I'll write L24. There's nobody in the world will give it wrong. It's just another book. It's like if you're going to do maths in secondary school or primary school, and you have two maths books. The two books doing the same thing. The two books covering the same work. Two maths book for primary school, Form 1. Two maths book for secondary school, Form 5. It's just another book, but it is a book, right? And for NEBOSH, they're not really concerned about what type of book it is. They just want you to know or have the knowledge that the laws then are broken down in a simpler form in a booklet. So what I want you all to do, those who got the L24, those who got the L26, I wanted to click it and I wanted to see that it is a book. I am going to click L24. The reason is that that's the first one that I came up to. L26 I have two, but L26 is actually a bit lower down, right? So the first one I can have is L24. If I go down, you'll see I do get the L26 as well, right? But L24 is the first one. So I'm going to click the first one only because of that reason. No special reason other than that. It's the first one that I came across here anyway, right? I also see L5. Anybody got L5? That's another one. As I go down, I'm seeing L5. All right. Those of us with the L24, L26, please click the link and see what comes up. And I want you to see what it is we're looking at. So this is L24. That's the name of it. Let's read the whole name. And I can't read upside down too good, but I'll read. This is Workplace Health, Safety, and Welfare Regulation, Approved Code of Practice and Guidance. And watch this here. Watch this here. Download a free copy. So I wanted to click that, right? Not for exam. I wanted to click it for you because I remember I tell you, when you finish this course, the information is still available. And what you'll see here is that it is a book free for your download. So anything you want to research as a safety person, I don't know if you're catching the drift. It doesn't have to be stress. It could be noise. It could be welding. It could be crushing. It could be dust. It could be manual handling. It could be radiation. Whatever it is, if somebody asks you something and you are the safety, you don't have to know everything, but you have to know how to find it. This is a free site. You notice it is a booklet. What's the book name there again? Or did I take it off? Sorry, the phone came off. Right? It's a book. Workplace Health and Safety. Right? It's a free book. L24. Is it second edition? Second edition. Right? It's a free booklet. And it's free for you. You can actually download this now. Downloading it is not part of the exam digest for you. All they want to do in your project is that you have to know to put the name of the book and them there, right? So if you all were writing, could you all write out the name for me? If you want to know what am I talking about, write out the name of the book. The name of the book is Workplace Health, Safety, and Welfare. The L24 is just the series, it's just the code. I don't know if you're all seeing that. The L24 is just the code, but the book have a name. The book have a name, Workplace Health, Safety, and Welfare. The book have a name. So the name of the book is what you're looking at there. And then the serial number or the series is L24. Tell me if you're okay. Let me just try to find L26 while you're writing that. Those who finish this one, I don't know if you want to try to find the guidance. If you want to take it, wait at me a bit. Let me click the L26 and see what comes up. It's good practice. But you only need one. You don't need two booklets for the project. You just need one. One is good enough. Right? So L26, again, look at here. This is what somebody has got. It's another booklet. You click download a free copy. You'll see it coming up there. Look at there, right? Another booklet. Remember, there are many books. There's as much books as there's hazard. Remember, that's what they said. The idea is that every hazard have a regulation, and then every regulation have a book. Why? Because they wanted to understand it, and it's a nice small thin book. These things are very colorful, like they want to show you here. These are very colorful. If you look at this, it's very colorful. It's not boring like a law then to open a law and read. So an employer is more willing to read something that looks like that, right, than to read a bulky legislation. All right, let me try to, I'm going to take off the L26 because I want a bit of the space to write the HSG. So let's try to find the HSG now. Or if you can't find the HSG, as I said, a good way is now a lot of publications carry the letters INDG. INDG. So you can actually put that. You can actually put, oh, should I tell you what the INDG stands for? I should have told you that. It's not an exam, but it may make some sense to tell you what the INDG stands for, right? Just in case you're interested, INDG, tell me when you're ready. Everybody ready for that one? Yes, no, yes, no.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right, INDG, the letters INDG stands for Industrial Guidance. That's not a question, I'm just telling you what it stands for. INDG stands for Industrial Guidance. And of course, HSG stands for Health and Safety Guidance. Anyone will do. These are all different books. NIBOSH is not interested in a particular book. Once you get a supplement, if I can go back to that slide, it's somewhere on this slide. They said these things supplement. So once you can get a supplement to help you understand the law, or once you can get a supplement, what this one here? Supplement, can supplement. This one here contains practical advice in the form of book. Once you can find one book and you put it in that space on your project, you're good to go, right? But what you need, I tell you, you need the L number if it's the ACOP, and you also need the HSG number or the INDG number and the name of the book if you're using a guidance. Any one of the books will do. You don't have to put two. If you put an ACOP, that's good enough. If you put a guidance, that's good enough. You don't have to put two books. One book is good enough. Right? Okay, so I'm back to my site. I'm back to my site. So I think I'll run INDG because I know INDG is more popular than HSG, right? It's a guidance anyway, it's a book anyway. So what I'll put in the search bar there is INDG for stress, right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put INDG, right? I'll show you what I type does now. INDG for stress. And let's say there's some sort of book out there for stress. Again, you can put stress at work, right? But I just put stress, INDG for stress. If you didn't like that, you could have put HSG for stress. It don't really matter. Once you find one book, we're good to go, right? And I'll put search now. I'll click the search bar and see what comes up. And yes, I'm getting the first thing said, work-related stress. That word looks like publication because it's upside down to me. So there is one there. You can probably click that. Oh yes, look at have one. Look, you find it here. Look, this is one, right? Because how you know you find it? Look at there. Look at on the URL there. INDG and then they give the number. Of course, I'm reading upside down. I'm reading because how I'm showing you all on the phone. So I can't read it. I'll have to turn it back around. It's INDG 424. That's the name of that book. Right? Remember, every book must have a different way to differentiate one book from another book. So you can click on that and see if we can get that. That's very good if we can get that. That's it right there. Yes, and it is there, right? It's a nice book. Remember, these things are free. Watch what it says. Working together to reduce stress at work. And if you come back here, you're supposed to see the number there, INDG 454. See how easy that was? So it doesn't take you long. But hopefully you learn the skill of tonight. The skill of tonight was not about the exam alone. You know? The skill of tonight is that 4 months from now, or for the rest of your life, when you're in safety, those of us who get in a career in safety, when somebody asks you something about stress, they say, okay, they say, Shondal, you know, your manager say, one of the workers complaining about, you know, working long hours and sitting for long. Do we have any sort of advice for that? But you could say yes, and you could just go and get the book. You don't have to know everything, but you have to know how to find it, right? Let's open this a bit. In fact, no, I opened it already. My mistake, right? You know, and look, I mean, if you open the book, right, it actually have good information. And what do stress management standards mean to me? If you open this book, by the way, it's free for the rest of your life, right? Once you know how to use the thing. But let me write the thing here for you all. This was, and this is a tough one. I actually enjoyed this one, right? I've never done stress before. The truth is, no student I've ever called stress before. Most people call the regular hazards like fire and noise and stuff like that, right? But I did enjoy this one because for me too, I'm sure you can pick it up. For me too, I did not know all of these by heart. I don't have to, right? You know, it's a strange one anyway. INDG, this is the name of this one. 424. And what I want you all to do, I want you all to write the name of the book. You remember, INDG 424 is not the name of the book. INDG 424 is just the serial number of the book. The book actually have a name, right? You see it published by the HSE there, working together to reduce stress at work, right? And that's it. That's page 9, right? Page 9 had, if you wonder where did all of this start? This started with the law, right? The law is the HSW Act. But then what we said is that they couldn't fit everything in the act. So what they did in the UK, they created a daughter law known as regulations. We went on to say that every hazard you could think about have a regulation. And we prove it today. Every hazard you could think about have a regulation. And the other thing we said was that the regulation is still the law. So sometimes employers don't have time to read a whole law then, but they could read something that looks nice like this, or what you see there, something with stress or whatever. They could read a nice little booklet, right? If there's a nice booklet, they could print it. Or these things, by the way, there are hard copies of these. I have some hard copies in the cupboard there. When I came back, I'm going to England this year. December. I'll try to get some. But when I came back, I had 2 copies, but over the years now, what I did, before the pandemic, I used to pass them out in class because students never knew what they were. So I used to pass out the booklets in class, right? And after 10 years and cycles, like 4 cycles of the year, the book kind of got burst. And we got another copy. And I think I passed out that one too, right? But this one I never really passes to anybody, right? This one has been here for a long time anyway, right? But they are hard copies. If you go to the UK, you could actually purchase them, but then they are free to download now. I do like the hard copies sometimes, just to prove to students that these things are real. But in today's day and age with the pandemic and stuff, all of these have been made accessible online anyway, right? So what I want to do, I want to give you an assignment, right? So I'm going to take this off. In fact, I'll take some of this off. In fact, I'll take all of them off. No, I would leave some because I don't want to write it over, right? In fact, I could clean the whole thing. I want to show you something here with it, right? So your assignment, now the assignment is not for tomorrow, right? I don't know if you remember orientation day. We normally give 1 question for the week, but this is a funny week because this week have some more things you could learn then, right? There are some weeks where the content we cover is not really relevant to exam. But this week is different. This week have some stuff relevant to exam, right? So the homework, you can hand it up next week, Monday. So from Monday to Monday. But it really supposed to be Monday for Tuesday. Assignments are normally due on a Tuesday, like next week, Tuesday, right? So what I want you to do, see if you can follow. You can do this on a table if you want, right? Listen to what I want you to do. And you could write it down because based on the time, you might not have time to write it down in like a sentence format, but I want you to think of 3 hazards. Think of 3 hazards of your choosing. So I will do mine like a table here, right? You're choosing 3 hazards that you choose, right? So you are choosing it, I am not choosing it. Same thing for your final. You have to come up with 10 hazards of your choosing, and then you sort of break it down to just 3 hazards, right? So this is practice for that assessment anyway, right? So you would pick 3 hazards, and for every hazard that you pick, I want you to find, and all I want is just the name of it. Do not give me any quote. All I want is the name of it. I want the regulation for that hazard. I want the ACOP for that hazard. So as I said, do it like a table format. And I want the guidance, whether it is an HSG or INDG. I guess I started to write INDG already here, but it could be HSG too. A guidance is a guidance anyway, right? I want the guidance for that hazard, right? So kind of like what we just did, but we do it like on a table format. So you would choose 3 hazards for me. And when you choose those hazards, you are going to research the UK regulation for it. You plug it in there, and the full name with the year of the regulation. The year is important. Like when you saw the one before, Workplace Health, Safety and Welfare Regulation, 1992. For the ACOP, I will want the L, and I want the number, and I want the full name of that booklet. And for the INDG, again, it's the same thing. You want the INDG or the HSG number and the full name of the booklet. And you just do that 2 other times, right? Please remember, this is due next week, Tuesday. Assignments and orientation, they are due the week afterwards. So if tonight is a busy night, you had a long day today, I am still stuck in my office as usual, right? Do it for next week. Do it over the weekend, right? So then you do another one. You choose another hazard, right? Of your choosing. You get the regulation for that. You get the ACOP for that. You get the guidance for that. You choose another one. You choose fire if you want to. You get the regulation for fire. You get the ACOP for fire. You get the guidance for fire. So if you understand the assignment, you could do it on a table format like this. Nothing is wrong with that. I chose a table format because it's the simplest way to explain it to you. Let me get your register in the meantime. See if you have any questions. I left it on the other my other workstation. This is actually not my desk. I'm actually sitting by one of the coordinators that's here. I'm looking for my slippers. I took out my shoes. Okay, let me get your register. Any questions, anyone? We are sort of done there for the evening. This is actually
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, how are we gonna submit this? Do we do it PDF form or?
No PDF. Just a Word document and email it back to this school. I mean, we must have emailed you all the PowerPoints before. It's
Yes.
Shadrach Safety Institute at yahoo.com. Yeah, so just a Word document, don't PDF it. The reason is that if you make any mistake, I cannot put a mark on a PDF, but if it's a Word document, I can put a mark on it. It's today's the 15th of July already. I didn't even know. Today's the 15th of July already. I didn't even believe that, right? I may be back in Guyana. I think I have some work maybe in August, right? Definitely I know they have booked me for somewhere in October. I'm booked the last week in October, but I have some work with some private companies doing, right? But yeah, I would be in and out. Hopefully you will catch me one of these days. I would have wanted one of the times I was in Guyana, what we did in November, we had asked the certificate class to come out to the school. Right? I don't know if I'll ask them to do that with you all. Right? We had asked the class to come out on a Saturday, and we had a class on a Saturday that I was in Guyana. Instead of having it Monday, Tuesday, yeah, people came from far because Guyana is huge, right? People came from far. We had students who actually stayed in hotels and stuff in Guyana, in Georgetown, where I was staying. People stayed there with me. Well, in different rooms, I actually met them there. Only to find out that they were staying in the same hotel as me. But I don't know if that will be arranged. I'll have to let you know. For now, the class is online, so it's convenient. You are home, I am in my office, so you are at your office. It's kind of convenient for now anyway, right? But that will be a nice day to sort of have a meet and greet before we, finish off the course. It's still kind of young, but remember, the course is only 4 chapters long. And again, 26 minutes past 7. Chapter 2 is going to take us 1 week to teach. Not only chapters long like chapter 1. Chapter 4 is going to take us 1 week to teach. Right? The course is finished in 4 months' time, right? And you all had 5, today's the 5th session already. The course finishes anyway, right? Folks, let me just mark the roll here and I am good to go. Tomorrow shouldn't be complicated as this. Tomorrow is just kind of straight.